Hello there. My name is Seanin and I'm going to talk you through the body-mind connection process for AuDHD children and teenagers and adults too. This is something that is being applied for the development of Sincerity School, which is an educational model that is transferable and will be available across the globe once we've finished constructing it for opening schools everywhere that support the AuDHD neurotype. And not just support it, but using neuroscience and emotional knowledge, somatic intelligence, and physiological awareness of the whole child, right? Will create a life, a sense of well-being, health, and happiness that would not be possible for the AuDHD child otherwise. Right. So I am about to take you through one of the final parts of the body-mind connection process and the reasons for its merits and why we apply it. And it's basically a process that explains how children develop, how AuDHD children develop, and how to direct their lives or their well-being, um, or not even direct it. I'm going to correct this. How to allow them to emerge and blossom from within themselves in the highest, most healthy way possible. So there'll be a lot of chat here. And because I have lost my glasses, my mind, and everything in the house keeps breaking, I'm going to be making lots of jokes, right? Because I am done with serious. I'm not being serious today. I don't want to. I am done. I'm done now. So let's find where my work is that I want to show you. So it's this over here. Let's go to the start. Okay, so the body-mind connection, how AuDHD children self-identify, the little things count. So what is masking? I'm going to talk to you about masking today. People have the kind of this a wrong-headed impression of what this is. Masking is this is what's presumed, that it's the act of an autistic or ADHD person suppressing some of their very obviously abnormal behaviors or different behaviors for the comfort of other people. It's not that simple, right? It is much, 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 much deeper than that. I'm going to talk to you about it today. So 90% of individuals with neurodivergence engage in masking to appear normal, leading to burnout, anxiety, and identity loss. Some of it, very small part, is conscious. The vast majority, for children, especially if they're undiagnosed for an extended period of time and in controlling environments, is unconscious. This does not mean they consciously squash aspects of their behavior only. It also means that from birth, they begin recognizing a disproportionate amount of negative feedback loops and begin to alter their behavior for safety and protection. Safety seeking and comfort seeking are natural patterns in children. Those with neurodivergence who do not have these safety loops completed, right, where their true nature and their emotions and their feelings and their thoughts and their ideas are not validated, met with love, given room to be expressed, when they're not given choice over anything, will entirely hand away their safety and well-being to others when the primary early experiences provide the message, your own decisions, thoughts, behaviors, wants, needs are wrong and will cause harm. It can also go the opposite way with pervasive drive for autonomy, where they have received negative messaging about a core part of themselves, and then they begin to pull all autonomy back for themselves and refuse to cooperate with people around them. Right. That is also a driver for safety, and they can oscillate between these two states. And this is all unconscious happening inside of the child. And with the body-mind connection, self, others, in the world, we are working to undo all of that entanglement, where we understand that the child is learning naturally from within themselves and to dictate their learning and to separate their learning out. Like, this is learning and this is play and this is serious time and this is listening time is not helpful for them. They are learning every second, right? And when we trust this organic process, we begin to see them emerge in healthy ways that are not disturbed by our own preconceptions and expectations. So false compensations and masking. It's a theory of child development and also child education, which merges the mental learning and biological processes within the child. So that's the body-mind connection that we're developing here. Through very specific study of how the neurodivergent brain works, targeting specifically that of the AuDHD child, it has become clear that they process information at rapid rates. You want to imagine, right, you know the way there's the faucet on the bath and there's just one tap and then the other tap, right? I want you to imagine that an AuDHD child has about 10 taps over their head all the time, right? And they are handling enormous amounts of information all the time. They are unconsciously funneling out some info, right? And then blocking out some info and then focusing on others depending on the pattern of success, right? So they are unconsciously learning what parts of the information they receive and also the output that they put out because they have those 10 elements within them, is giving them results. Now, I need to tell you this so it's clear. Results doesn't mean getting what they need, right? We have an enormous amount of neurodivergent children globally right now whose needs are not being met, either internally or externally. And it begins with the fact that they cannot access these needs within themselves, first and foremost, due to the environment that we have created here on this planet. They process information at rapid rates, unconsciously and consciously. Their ability to assess situations quickly is very high, but this has worked to their detriment to a degree. As a result, when masking is unconscious and they lose their autonomy, they begin to rapid rate assess environments for success patterns rather than their own internal needs. So they're overriding their own internal needs. They're overriding their own internal preferences. They're overriding their own internal sense of self, which is emergent in childhood, in favor of watching patterns and mimicry of people externally. I had this to the extreme, so it is a very, very important subject to me. And I experienced this from very early age, where my reality was invalidated, and as a result of this invalidation, I began to seek, right, means of comfort and safety externally. And the only ones I received, the only one I received was approval from others. That gave me a form of safety, and it was temporary. I recognize that as happiness because when the sense of self is eroded, ignored, lost, or suppressed, we begin to identify very simple things that for a neurotypical child are normal, like a sense of belonging, a sense of approval, with actual happiness, despite the fact that that state is superficial and fleeting and dependent on other people. So this is the phase of evolution with masking and AuDHD. Connection to self is where it all begins. A child has unconsciously identified that their core being and needs will not be met, and not only that, are unsafe. They comfort and safety seek through mirroring others. I call that false compensations, right? So mirroring others is one aspect. Another one is hypervigilance, constantly watching for what would protect them from being seen. There develops a complete overriding of their own body systems, signals, drivers, and needs in order to appear okay and also to not be rejected because rejective sensitive dysphoria is also very high. Connection to others is then eroded, and this is how. A neurodivergent child begins to hand their own energy, power, attention, and safety to other people or to systems, right? They have hyperdrive minds, right? Their bodies are completely disconnected. Their emotional states are lost, right? And this is a survival pattern that is formed over time. They no longer trust their own perceptions, ideas, or emotional messaging due to the messaging they've received from others and from their environment that something is wrong with them. As a consequence, they are modeling themselves on whatever version of safety and success they find, and very often this is subpar. And unfortunately, they can't drive that mask intuitively. So the mask that becomes themselves is in fact simply a personality formed of safety seeking and comfort seeking. Inside, they are carrying around an internal hell that no one knows about, not even them. Their normal baseline is extreme suffering. and it only begins to coagulate and build over time. They are constantly unconsciously learning how to be someone else, and that means learning the rules of reality from others. This can go very deep, like I said. Like with me personally, I did not know the difference between temporary senses of safety and belonging and actual happiness. I had no means of accessing myself. I had to ask other people about circumstances, situations, environments, about how I was meant to behave, what was expected of me. I used to enter relationships and I'd say, "What do you expect of me?" Right? And I'd try and work it out and I would try and be whatever it was they expected because that's what I thought love was, right? I had never, ever experienced full spectrum expression of me until the last couple of years in my life. And there are complicated reasons why that's the case. It was so extreme that when I got my nails done, right, I would then start to adopt behaviors that I believed were the behaviors that people had when they had their nails done. Because this is how my brain was wired. I was like, okay, everything in the world has a code or a behavior or a pattern or a ritual alongside it, and I have to match that. This is what I'm supposed to be now. I remember I became a mother, and I remember the thought in my head. It's like, oh no, who am I as a mother? What is a mother? Right? I was cognitively trying to work this out, right? And I had no one around to tell me. So the only thing I had to drive me was stress and my own intuitive love for my son. I fully believe that my intuition came online for myself when my son was born. And the thing with unmasking, it is intuitive. So I'm talking too much now. Let's go back to what I was saying. So connection to the world. There's a typo, please ignore it. This completely diminishes their well-being, their relationships, and sense of who they are. They make decisions and present appropriately according to both conscious and unconscious success markers, but experience extreme sadness and are extremely easy to control, and they have no idea why. The 10th intelligence and the body-mind connection. For children and adults with neurodivergence, I never know whether it's adults or adults, I don't know what I'm saying right. Their masking is for the most part entirely unconscious and their worldview is externally sourced. Speaking personally, I made head-based decisions about everything in my life, largely to attempt to seek parental and friend group approval. I was so low on both that when I received it, it felt like happiness. I thought that's what happiness was. Right? It is often the only true happiness, contentment, joy, and sense of belonging undiagnosed divergence tend to experience. And it is fleeting. And being preoccupied with patterns, they would repeat a pattern, seeking this feeling of belonging over and over until it no longer worked, creating increasingly more and more unhealthy realities for themselves, which are far beyond the preferences, needs, and drives of their true nature. And again, this can go the other way, right? Extreme isolation, pervasive drive for autonomy, some part of their core nature has been rejected, it goes into exile, and then they are unconsciously then fighting to protect themselves from other people's choices because they feel like they lost something and they don't know what they lost. Right? The 10th intelligence and the body-mind connection. The problem with masking is not fixed immediately. It takes enormous amounts of time to undo the extreme hypervigilance, people-pleasing, and control patterns that have been set in motion inside an AuDHD child from an early age. But it can begin to unravel naturally without hurting or harming them further by offering them something worthy, natural, and supportive of their neurological and somatic health long term. Autonomy. Autonomy, self-identification, and the 10th intelligence. I haven't talked about the 10th intelligence yet. I'm leading you towards it, right? It needs to be there because that's where we're going, right? A child who is freed from the conveyor belt of societal, personal, and unconscious internalized self-criticism will begin to process information from a new source, their own body, and their own body first. I need to say that. The body is first, and then other things come online. Often in life, we wait for extreme burnout, breakdowns, and crisis for this to occur. It is when the unconscious child self, who has been ignored, is most loud, and through deep, present, and gentle attention, the lost and exiled parts of themselves can return and begin showing them a new source of messaging, their own feelings. The unfurling freedom of the 10th intelligence. Oh, and I just want to say I put a picture of the rainbow body in that last slide because it's a beautiful example of what happens when all the processes and all the systems and all the flowing energy inside of the natural body system are allowed their full room to express when we have access to all of it once more. It's a lovely way of depicting that. Now we have an infinity loop, right? And a rainbow showing diversity, uniqueness. An AuDHD child with multiple streams of information running through them no longer experiences those streams as disturbance. It's information. And for a time, it's uncomfortable as their physical body and their mind begin working together to reveal their own nature underneath. It is a natural process where self-observance, self-focus, and real deep emotional presence offers them not just one external source of intelligence, the outside world, but many kinds, all from within themselves. Isn't that lovely? Now, what happens next? There's a lot of writing on this page, so I'm going to try and make it entertaining. You ready? We spoke about Gardner's 9 kinds of intelligence for the body-mind connection process. Our aim, that's my TV voice, is to re-establish connection between the body and the mind fully, so the nervous system and neural networks can work harmoniously together, because most people are living in their heads. That's what they call them back home in Strabane, their heads, right? Big old potato heads. Now, this creates a freedom and relief for neurodivergent children that also informs them of their own true essence and relieves them of the need to define themselves through fixed fact and logic or other people. No more seeking safety when they trust themselves instead. And the beauty of it is, when we no longer seek safety, we then have this whole plethora of beautiful, lovely, blissful, enormously pleasurable feelings and experiences inside of our own self that are available now, that may not have been available before for those who were undiagnosed and masked for years, right? And it is a wonderful thing. So the 10th intelligence is the natural, multifaceted intelligences within the AuDHD child fully actualized and their sense of self returned. It is so multidimensional in its nature that the learning and their power is now intuitive and internally wrought. They are learning about themselves through nervous system and neural pathway integration, stabilization, and nourishment, right? When we are not trying to control who they are and give them the autonomy over their own learning, their own experiences, their own choices, their own preferences, allow them to express safely, allow them to learn that no is okay, but there are other options available, right? We see an emboldened, freed child with a form of expression that is entirely unique and may surpass all our expectations for that child, despite what we may have been trying to force them to do prior. Okay. They understand, see, know, and express from something inexplicable and unique to them, which is, in essence, intuitive. So, how to ensure and protect well-being, health, and happiness for AuDHD children long term? So, AuDHD children need experiences daily and regularly, which help 1, foster neuroplasticity, 2, ensure emotion processing, need to say that, and regulation. Regulating a child doesn't mean stopping them feeling. This drives me insane, right? Schools have a tendency to think that nervous system dysfunction is something that requires stopping a child processing an emotion. No, it means allowing them to feel it out in full and helping them to find safety in the feeling out of that, right? Regulation is not regulation. We are not telling them when and what and how to feel. We are, in fact, allowing that chaotic process to unfold safely and with lots of time and lots of freedom, knowing that it has multiple meanings, messages, information, and purposes from within themselves, which we cannot dictate. Number 3, autonomic balance, right? So that's when all of the nervous system is working in harmony and it's maintaining heart rate variability, and balance. So these activate the limbic system, the vagus nerve, and the prefrontal cortex, engage dopamine and endocannabinoid pathways, and help stabilize vagal tone in the autonomic nervous system. Self-directed learning, and this is the thing, giving them activities that have choice, give them little jobs, give them a sense of control, a sense of purpose, a sense of direction, but also freedom to play, explore, express, imagine. This works harmoniously with all of these systems. This reduces masking and promotes self-sourced, free and benevolent relationship to their own bodies and minds, which is integral to long-term health. Emotions are information, and an obedient child is not a happy or healthy child. I have these conversations regularly with parents, right? They're a little subverted. I hear often from people, my child is progressing well at school, they are very obedient, all is well. That's not natural for a child. It is not natural for a child not to be chaotic, messy, expressive, bold, curious, playful, questioning, radical, unreasonable, and free. Growing up too fast is a direct loss of self. Growing up obedient is a direct product of loss of self. The emotions a child feels needs space, safety, and respect. Their bodies are more intelligent than us, and they are unconsciously forming awareness of their true needs in nature through the simple act of slowing down, listening to themselves, and feeling things through. Exiled emotion is a lost part of the self, and it doesn't disappear, it hides. It becomes part of the deep unconscious, a screaming child on the inside that they have no idea is there, and yet they feel all of the suffering within that, and they have no idea what to do with it. And it dictates behaviors in crisis, in breakdown, in pressure and stress. It clouds the adult and the obedient child. So, the obedient child suddenly begins to exhibit more and more uncharacteristic behaviors. A need is not being met, and the child can't access a part of themselves. It becomes their unconscious nature long term. And that is really dangerous. Long-term ill health and unhappiness is not just possible, but inevitable when we allow for the exiled emotion to get lost like this. Laughter, connection, and play are the best medicine. Play is necessary for metabolizing complex feeling, and laughter promotes safety, harmony, and well-being across all body systems. Children benefit from being daft. Isn't that wonderful? That's wonderful to discover, given that is literally my modus operandi. I am, at baseline, a dafty, and I am so glad that this is an expression of health, an intelligence inside of my worldly being. Isn't that wonderful? So children benefit from having choice, hearing themselves, learning to trust themselves, and not take life so terribly seriously. Their own nature exists already and is in every cell of their being, communicating with every cell of their being, and already perfectly aware of who they are. We don't need to tell them. They already know. Now, connection as the cure. Have no idea what that title is because there's something in the way. But the process of self-development um, and self-sourced intuitive well-being to begin, we start with connection to self, and that's the beginning of the body-mind connection theory and why we are applying it for child development and for learning inside of Sincerity Schools. There will be a donation link attached to this video. But that doesn't form or begin when it is overridden by school demands, schedules, rushed parents, and overly controlling activities which do not engage the whole child enthusiastically. I will say this again and again and again and again and again until it lands. Enthusiasm is a child's own signal for what fits them. Drops mic, the end. We should listen. Now the end. Right, so stop share. That was an enthusiastic end that I messed up. Right. So there we are. Masking is actually an incredibly complex, very serious thing. And it is way more common than we realize. It creates enormous distress internally that no one can see, most especially not the neurodivergent individual who experiences it. And the resulting solution for the children of the world right now is self-directed learning, play, communication, freedom, being a child, making art, messing up, allowing themselves to be emotional, allowing themselves to make choices, allowing themselves to make mistakes, all in the comfort and safety of adults who are okay with everything that they are. Total unconditional love in natural environments. No more controlling, no more regimented behavior, no more progress markers, no more pushing. We allow the natural evocation of the true self to form. by allowing children to be children. Imagine, it's that simple. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that so strange? Isn't this world just so easy to resolve and so easy to love? Anyway, I'm gonna go now. Have a lovely day. And like I said, the donation link is at the top because we are attempting to open a school and I can't do it by myself. Thanks, bye.